US President Donald Trump has announced a full boycott of the summit, accusing South Africa of human rights abuses and vowing no American official will attend. With Trump's move, throwing global diplomacy into disarray, has been, as I said, at least for a year, close on to a year now. If you can read the readiness report, which speaks with Professor John Strimlow, honorary professor of international relations at the Wits University, about what this power play reveals about a world where provocation has become policy. We've seen it from local politics, right, where provocation somehow becomes policy. But from an international stage, well, after a long time, we're probably playing in that field with the United States under Donald Trump. But anyway, joining us this evening is Dr. Dale McKinley. Dr. Dale, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, good afternoon, Junaid, and to your listeners and viewers.
Dale, Trump's boycott of the G20 in South Africa is a bold, some say reckless move. I mean, what message is he really sending to the world? That the US doesn't participate where he doesn't want to participate? In your opinion, how would one really interpret this move, Dr. Dale?
Well, Junaid, it's consistent with Trump, what Trump has been doing ever since he came into office. Basically, he makes decisions on a whim. He makes decisions based according to what he thinks his constituents want to hear and what's going to play well. He doesn't make them based on rational economic or political considerations. That's very clear. I mean, one can just look at, for example, basically the boycott of the COP30 in Brazil and refusing to achieve that, pulling out of all the international fora, basically, trying to rewrite the entire rules according to his own playbook. So that's what we should expect of Trump. And I think it's time now that we stop being sort of surprised and that these things are going to happen. He's going to continue to do them, and he's going to do them on a regular basis. But in particular relationship to the G20, and the reason why he's doing this is because he doesn't like us. He doesn't like South Africa. He is dog whistling to his domestic constituencies, who are basically people who do not know much about our country, who are fairly ignorant of its policies. That's why he can make outright lies and claim that there's a white genocide, and this plays well with them, and that allow Afrikaners to come supposedly and seek refuge in the United States. But he simply doesn't like Africa in general. And I think that there is a racial component to this. There's a geopolitical component to it. But fundamentally, it's about him being a bully, and that's his foreign policy.
Pretoria has described Trump's comments as imperial arrogance. I mean, do you think that this was the right sort of comment? I mean, they could have chosen to ignore it, but no doubt they stamped it with imperial arrogance. Your thoughts on that, Dr. Dale?
Yeah, I would say that's a fairly mild description. I mean, and I think, I understand why people will be careful about what they say, because obviously there's repercussions, and Trump, will act against anyone who crosses him. You can see this, in his behavior, both domestically and just recently, where he's threatening now to sue the BBC for $1 billion because of some documentary a year ago or so. But anyway, the point being is that imperial arrogance has been the calling card of the United States for the last 50, 60 years. Let's not kid ourselves. It didn't start with Trump. So I don't think that really captures the nature of what Trump is doing. He's gone way beyond imperial arrogance, which the United States is a general policy of it, and interference in domestic policies and other things across the world. He is basically attempting to tear down the global order as it has been built up over the last 40 years and remake it according to what he thinks the United States wants and what he thinks his constituents want, and play by his rules. And if you don't play by his rules, well, then he's going to try to punish you, or he's going to try to marginalize you. And that's how we must understand Trump. And that's what we must expect for the next 3 years.
Trump, of course, has used Africa as his punching bag, even in his first presidency as well. But this time around, it's particularly targeted towards certain countries, and South Africa seems to be on the front line. I mean, is it simply only about South Africa's policy on the case in the ICC with regards to the genocide case levied against Israel, or is there something more that's not meeting the eye in the world of Mr. Trump?
There's a lot more to it, Junaid. Yes, Palestine is certainly one aspect to it. Our general sort of foreign policy stances with regards to other things like the Russia-Ukraine war or relationships with China, these also play a little bit of a role. But I would argue that fundamentally what underlies his particular dislike and his particular approach to South Africa is race. And I say this, and let's investigate this just for a bit. Basically, Donald Trump's entire domestic policy, his fundamental sort of flagship, is to kick out people of color, kick out all the immigrants that he doesn't want. And he is doubling down and, going across the country. People are disappearing off the streets, being barged into their homes. This is basically a little bit of a stormtrooper, brown shirt kind of, neo-Nazi kind of, actions that are happening. And he has his own constituents, his MAGA constituency is predominantly made up of people who want to take the United States back to an imagined past when it was predominantly white, when it didn't have all these people of color, and when things were, the way they wanted them to be, and they were striding the world. That's what he wants. That's why the MAGA and the entire Make America Great Again is exactly that intent. So when he sees a South Africa and he sees a black rule government, having influence on the global stage, taking positions that he doesn't want to agree with, and basically, calling him out, at least in certain aspects, he then acts accordingly. So let me give one example as well of the total contradiction and hypocrisy of this kind of agenda. He threatened just last week to send troops to Nigeria in order to be able to save supposedly Nigerian Christians from a genocide that is happening there, of course, which is false factually. But of course, what he did not say was he didn't say that I'm going to open up the gates of the United States to accept Christian refugees from Nigeria who are escaping genocide, did he? No, because they're black for the most part. But he will open up the gates of the United States to accept white Afrikaners from South Africa who are supposedly escaping a genocide here. So that's what's really behind this. Trump is a white nationalist. Let's be very clear that his politics are that. And that's what is playing itself out in this kind of relationship.
Finally, Dr. Dale, I know this is, of course, a loaded discussion that we'll certainly have post even G20 as well. Whenever a vacuum, of course, is created, and in this case, it seems the United States is creating many global vacuums under Donald Trump and his policies, especially tariff-related. That vacuum is certainly not going to remain a vacuum. It's going to be filled in either by Beijing or either by the European Union. In the case of South Africa, it seems that the European Union has, in fact, taken notice that South Africa is available for investments, which prior or previously American companies may have in fact filled that role. I mean, do you see these two players, major players, Western Europe and China, filling the void that U.S. companies, conglomerates, and even U.S. sometimes personnel, diplomatic personnel have in fact left that void on the continent?
To some extent, but not fully. I mean, look, irrespective of Trump's agenda, American business is going to do business, and it's going to, and they need many things that we have, particularly natural resources. So they're not going to just leave and get replaced. They're going to find other ways, and corporates will always find ways, whether through front companies, whether it's through other arrangements or whatever it might be, even if the bilateral aspects are put under pressure by Trump. So I think that is a bit overblown, but I think what will happen and what is happening is that other opportunities for better trade, for better deals, for more, let's take citrus exports, which are fairly sizable in South Africa. As they are, the tariffs and everything are closing spaces in the United States, they're going to open up with other countries. And that's natural in the global context of trade. So yes, there will be some new opportunities. There will be new relationships built. But the United States is not going to go away simply because Trump is the president for 4 years. When he leaves, and who knows what's going to come after him, it might change fundamentally back, and we might have a different kind of administration that seeks out, much better and closer relationships with our country as well as others. So I don't think we should read too much into the longer term, but certainly in the short term, yes. What Trump is doing is basically forcing countries like ours and others to seek other opportunities, both politically and economically.
Dr. Dale McKinley, thank you for joining us on Radio Islam International, making yourself available as always. Have a good evening ahead of you, Dr. Dale.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, this is on the base of South Africa hosting the G20 summit. This is the first time G20 is going to be held on African soil for whatever it's worth, right? Some may say that